In the previous recap, Tae-sang was spotted living in modern-day Korea with a mark on his neck, suggesting that many years have gone by, and he's still alive thanks to the Nijin parasite. If you missed the Season 1 recap, you can find the link in the comments section. Let's dive back into the story. Tae-sang, now going by the name Ho-jae, runs a secret service company that spies on people. One night, they get a request to spy on a client's wife in room 809, but Ho-jae mistakenly heads to room 608. Meanwhile, in room 608, a frightened man is nervously staring at his drawings of a mysterious creature. The man senses someone invading his privacy, gets scared, and suddenly the lights go out. A figure appears by the window and attacks the man with tentacles, killing him. Ho-jae reaches the door to catch his client's wife red-handed, and knocks several times to take a photo as requested by the client, but the silence makes him uneasy. At the same time, Chauk also enters the room, searching for this guy who has been missing, but finds the place empty, except for a sketchbook filled with drawings of the creature. When Ho-jae bursts in, he discovers the man dead and is immediately attacked by Chauk. She easily overpowers him with her strength. Ho-jae's friend, worried, rushes to the hotel and finds Ho-jae alone with the body. The body is sent for investigation, and Ho-jae ends up in police custody. He tries to explain that a powerful woman, not him, likely killed the man, but the police find only Ho-jae's fingerprints. Knowing Ho-jae's reputation, the officer gives him two choices: find the woman or turn himself in. Meanwhile, the victim's father hires Chauk to find his son's killer for revenge. As Chauk checks the hotel's CCTV footage, she is shocked to see Tae-sang, who should be dead by now. Later, when Ho-jae looks at pictures of Chauk, he notices a bracelet he gave her decades ago. He spots her on the street and starts to chase her. When they finally confront each other, Ho-jae reveals he's the guy she fought at the hotel. Seeing him reminds Chauk of Tae-sang, and she lowers her guard. They start to fight, but Ho-jae seems to have forgotten his past and doesn't recognize her. Chauk is overwhelmed by seeing her long-lost love after decades. When she calls him by his real name, he feels a sharp pain in his head, and she slowly hugs him. Meanwhile, a suspicious man named Sungjo breaks into Chauk's apartment and finds a sketchbook with a drawing of Tae-sang, which captures his interest. Elsewhere, in a secret hospital basement, we meet a mad scientist named Kuriko-01. He gives orders to release a man as bait in the lower basement, and we see the creature moving toward him. Then we flash back to Chauk's past, where she got the Nijin parasite from her mother. While it saved her life, it came at a terrible cost, claiming many innocent lives. When she wanted to return to Tae-sang, she realized she had become a monster, no longer fitting in with human society. Now, reunited with her love, Ho-jae, he insists she's mistaken him for someone else. Ho-jae questions why she was at the murder scene if she wasn't the killer. She explains that she was sent to find the man but discovered him dead. Realizing she may not be the murderer, he asks her to team up with him, but she refuses, calling him a burden and warning him that even if he finds the real killer, he won't be able to stop them. Later, Ho-jae asks his friend if he knows anyone named Tae-sang, since a woman called him that. His friend tries to avoid the question but quickly grows nervous, as though he knows something. Meanwhile, Chauk returns home to find her laptop and other belongings missing. She gets a message with a picture of Tae-sang and learns that someone has requested to find Ho-jae, who has been missing for a year. Worried, she heads to meet the client at a bar. Sung, however, becomes suspicious and questions Madame Na about Chauk. When she tries to warn Chauk not to come, Sung stops her, growing angry. At the same time, a police officer visits Ho-jae at home, telling him about a series of murders where the victims' brains were sucked out. The officer warns him to stay away from the case, but they suddenly get a message about another similar murder. Both rush to the scene. Chauk arrives there too and finds her manager, Madame Na, dead. She gets a call from Madame Na's phone, and Sung questions how she knows Ho-jae. As she looks around, she spots him standing downstairs. Ho-jae also arrives and sees Chauk on the rooftop. When she starts chasing Sung to take revenge, Ho-jae follows, but soon loses them. Chauk confronts Sung and fights him. He begins to doubt if she's human but quickly realizes she's one of them and stabs her with his tentacles. Before he can do more harm, Ho-jae intervenes. Confused by Ho-jae's presence, Sung vanishes. Worried, Ho-jae rushes Chauk to the hospital, but she mysteriously disappears from the operating room minutes after arriving. Meanwhile, Kuriko-01 gets a call from Colonel Kato's son Jio, the company chairman, about Sung causing trouble by hunting people. Furious, Kuriko-01 confronts Sung and warns him to stay hidden until things cool down. Now, Ho-jae is curious about his real identity, as he keeps hearing the name Tae-sang. When he asks his friend Kwon, we learn that there was an accident a year ago, and Ho-jae lost all his memories. Kwon convinces Ho-jae that it's best not to remember his brutal past and to focus on the future. Suddenly, Ho-jae gets a call from Chauk, who is standing in front of his house. She begins to realize it's the same pawn shop Taesang used to own but chooses to ignore it. Now, she wants to work with Ho-jae to catch Sung. When he expresses concern about her injury, she tells him to stay professional and not ask any personal questions, including her name. As they plan to call Madame Na's number, Officer Jisoo secretly records their conversation. Meanwhile, Sung talks with Kuriko-01, explaining there are other creatures like them out there. Ho-jae then calls Sung, asking why he's looking for him. Sung doesn't answer but messages him to meet. When Chalk decides to meet Sung alone, Ho-jae insists on joining since Sung is really after him, not her. Kwon tries to convince Ho-jae to stay away from Chalk, but Ho-jae is determined to solve the mystery and catch the killer. All three head to the meeting location, with Kwon staying in the car. For protection, Chalk gives Ho-jae a radio and some bombs. As they explore the abandoned skyscraper, they realize it's a trap. Chalk kicks Ho-jae down the building to protect him and stays behind to fight the creatures. Outside, Sung meets Kwon, and when Ho-jae returns, he finds Sung and Kwon, injured lying on the ground. Sung reveals that Ho-jae was once one of them, and his memories were erased. Sung then forms a weapon from his cells and attacks Ho-jae, seriously injuring him. The other creatures bring Chalk downstairs, and in an attempt to mentally break Ho-jae, Sung stabs her. Just before they finish them off, Kwon arrives in his car, rescuing Ho-jae and Chalk. But Sung warns that they'll soon regret saving Chalk, as she'll eventually crave human brains. Chalk, anxious that she might hurt Ho-jae and Kwon, tries to escape by breaking the car door, causing it to flip over. She tries to run away before her hunger takes over, but Ho-jae refuses to leave her behind, even though she's badly hurt and bleeding. As he hugs her, calling her by her name, Chalk, she realizes that Ho-jae is actually Taesang. Later, Officer Jisoo arrives at the crash site and finds Kwon and Ho-jae injured. When Ho-jae wakes up in the hospital, he's handcuffed. Officer Jisoo explains that they found Kwon heavily injured and Ho-jae's fingerprints on a baseball bat. In a flashback, we see that Kwon was the one who initially hit Ho-jae on the head. Meanwhile, Kato meets with Lady Maeda, who has aged over the years. Sung visits the hospital to meet Ho-jae. Though Ho-jae is angry, Sung threatens him, revealing that he has captured Chalk and is keeping her in the old Jong-sang hospital basement. There, Chalk meets a young boy who has been tricked by the scientists into becoming part of their experiments. Worried about Chalk's safety, he agrees to escape the hospital on his instructions, but before that he goes to meet with Kwon, and after speaking with him, Ho-jae returns home and begins to uncover the truth about his past. He finds old photos of himself with Kwon's grandfather, who was once Taesang's friend. As he recalls more, his old memories comes back to him and he is able to remember his people. Suddenly, Sung appears and attacks him. Since Ho-jae is powerless without his abilities, Sung tries to convince him to take the Nijin parasite again. Meanwhile, Chalk confronts Kuriko-01, who explains that under Colonel Kato's orders, they've been conducting inhumane experiments for years, with help from Lady Maeda. When Chalk meets Lady Maeda, she's shocked to learn that Maeda has also taken the Nijin to stay young. Maeda, once a powerful figure during Japan's rule over Korea, returned for revenge after Korea gained its freedom. She attacked Taesang and his loved ones, but she wanted him to suffer for much longer than a simple death. Furious, Chalk realizes that Lady Maeda was behind giving the Nijin to Taesang. However, for Maeda, causing this suffering is part of her revenge. Kuriko-01 warns Lady Maeda that involving Chalk in these experiments could cause trouble, but Maeda isn't experimenting. She's seeking revenge for events that took place 80 years ago. As Chalk and Taesang see each other, he realizes that to save her, he must become one of them again. He agrees to take the Nijin back. As soon as it returns to his body, his wounds heal, and his memories flood back. In the blink of an eye, Taesang appears behind Sung and throws him far away, proving that Sung is no match for him. Taesang demands to know where Chalk is. Meanwhile, Chalk is fighting other creatures in the hospital, trying to save Taesang. When Lady Maeda learns that Taesang has regained his Nijin, she orders Kuriko-01 to capture him and execute Chalk. During the battle against the assassin creatures, Taesang struggles to fight as his emotions cloud his focus. In the heat of the fight, he accidentally stabs Chalk. Despite the injury, Chalk is happy to see that Taesang remembers her. Meanwhile, Lady Maeda watches everything on CCTV until Sung turns off the cameras and appears, hinting that he's been secretly working with them. When Kuriko and his team arrive, Sung lies, claiming he couldn't stop Taesang and that both he and Chalk escaped the hospital. In reality, Chalk is hiding nearby injured. A flashback reveals that Taesang asked Sung to get Chalk to safety while he distracted their enemies. Taesang leads the enemies to a dead end, where Kuriko is waiting to capture him. However, Taesang takes a different path, making Kuriko suspicious that Sung helped Taesang escape. Later, when Taesang and Sung meet, Sung apologizes for not helping Taesang a year ago and directs him to meet Chalk at the subway. Taesang puts on a jacket to blend in and finds Chalk on a bench, where they reunite and share a kiss. In a flashback, we learn about Sung's past. He is the son of Myongja, the mistress of Lady Maeda's husband. Sung's unique ability to partially transform his body made Colonel Kato curious, but it also made Sung feel like he was just the result of an experiment, not special. Back in the present, Kuriko 01 discovers that their experimental subject, Jong, has escaped. He suspects Sung helped him, but Sung calmly claims he has a bigger plan in mind. Jong, now awake and hungry, is guided by his creature instincts. At the same time, Jong's grandmother reports to the police that her grandson has been missing after volunteering for a paid lab experiment. The detective investigating the strange murders grows curious when a news report shows Jong and several dead bodies. Sung visits Taesang and Chalk, and they watch the news. Chalk recognizes Jong from the basement prison, and Sung admits he set Jong free to expose Lady Maeda's inhumane experiments to the public. Taesang grabs an old phone and calls the detective, who immediately realizes Taesang has regained his past self. Taesang shares his plan with the detective. Meanwhile, Kuriko meets with Colonel Kato's son Gio, who is furious over Kuriko's failure to control the experiments. Kuriko blames Sung and suggests Lady Maeda might also be involved. Kuriko goes to the police station with his men to retrieve Jong, but the detective refuses to hand him over since Jong is now a prime suspect in the murders. Officer Jisoo informs Taesang of the situation, and Taesang decides to rescue Jong. Sung tries to convince Taesang to forget about others and focus on living a happy life with Chalk, but Taesang insists he won't rest until he puts an end to the madness. Sung agrees to join them. Kuriko convinces the detective to release Jong, claiming he's infected with a deadly virus and needs treatment. As Kuriko and his team drive off with Jong, Taesang notices their vehicles and starts chasing them, followed by Chalk, Sung, and Officer Jisoo. Suspicious of being followed, Kuriko changes direction, and Taesang follows him while leaving the van to Chalk. As they drive, Sung opens up to Chalk, confessing that he loves and respects Taesang but regrets not helping him a year ago. In a flashback, we see that Sung had wanted to help Taesang, but Lady Maeda stopped him by injecting him with a serum that temporarily disabled his Nijin, leaving him unable to heal for 12 hours. Sung's fear of getting hurt or killed had stopped him from helping Taesang in the past. Chalk sympathizes with him, telling him it's normal to be afraid of dying and he shouldn't feel ashamed. But suddenly, Sung injects her with a serum, saying he has to do it to protect himself, following Lady Maeda's orders. Meanwhile, Taesang faces Kuriko 01, who is surprised that Taesang is still coming after them, even after reuniting with Chalk. Kuriko warns Taesang not to trust Sung, but Taesang believes Chalk is safe with him. As they fight, Sung is trying to kill Chalk, saying he has to do it to survive and stay loyal to Lady Maeda. Before he can hurt her, Officer Jisoo shoots Sung, stopping him. Chalk quickly tells Jisoo to leave, but then a group of assassins surrounds Sung, confusing him. Chalk runs but soon gets caught by other creatures ahead. During Taesang's fight with Kuriko, it is revealed in a flashback that Kuriko is doing these experiments to find a cure for his wife, who is partially paralyzed. Taesang gets hold of a serum that puts Nijin to sleep and tries to use it on Kuriko, but Kuriko stops him. He explains that he doesn't want to fight anymore and advises Taesang to save the serum for Lady Maeda instead. Later, Kuriko gets a call from his team, telling him that Lady Maeda knows about his plan and has captured both his wife and their experiment, Jong. When Taesang returns to the hospital basement, Lady Maeda is waiting for him. She challenges his beliefs by giving him a cruel choice. She has captured his friends, Kwan, the detective, and Jong, as well as Chalk. He can either save his 3 friends or save Chalk, but if he chooses Chalk, she will lose her Nijin and all of her memories will be erased from her life. Taesang, angry and determined, confronts Lady Maeda and injects her with a sleeping serum. As her bodyguards attack Taesang, he realizes that the creatures are about to kill his friends. He then makes the difficult decision to try to protect his friends first. Even though Chalk, someone important to him, is in danger. He breaks through the floor with his strength and fights off creatures to help his friends escape. Meanwhile, Kuriko tells Chalk that Taesang chose to save his friends over her, hinting that they should end her life. During the rescue, Taesang gives Kwan a knife to free the others while he battles a giant creature. In the struggle, Chalk is thrown into the water, where her powers, called Nijin, are at risk of being removed. As Taesang fights the creature, he cuts one of his tentacles, and in this way he manages to control the creature, commanding it to follow his will. Lady Maeda attempts to trap him by releasing nitrogen gas into the chamber. Sensing the danger, Taesang quickly uses the creature to help him escape the gas chamber and reach safety. After saving his friends, Taesang decides to rescue Chalk. However, he first confronts Lady Maeda, who loves him too much to shoot him despite having a gun. Taesang walks away, but Sung, angry and disappointed in her, attacks her with his tentacles. Even though she shoots him, he pushes her into the nitrogen gas, where she dies in agony, experiencing the same pain she caused others in her cruel experiments. Meanwhile, Chalk is submerged in freezing water, but her Nijin suddenly becomes active and protects her. Kuriko, confused by this, tries to take her Nijin. Taesang arrives and, after defeating the guards, breaks through the glass to save Chalk. Later, when Kuriko returns, he finds Chalk's Nijin dead. Some time passes, and Chalk has lost all her memories. She now lives a normal life as a college student, under the care of Zhang's grandmother. Although Chalk has forgotten everything from her past, she still dreams every night of chasing someone important to her. In her new life, she crosses paths with Taesang, but now they meet as strangers. Even though she doesn't remember him, something deep inside her stirs, as if she's reaching out for the person she always chases in her dreams. Maybe this time they will be able to complete their love story? This is the end of Season 2, guys, and maybe their story too. I hope you liked it.